I do have a really cool guest with me tonight. I have Brooke from Random Acts of Kindness. And for those of you that have always tuned into us, my name is Sam. I'm the product manager and content manager for ClassTag. And Brooke, feel free to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about Random Acts of Kindness.
Yeah. Hi, Sam. And hi, everybody out there. My name is Brooke. I am the vice president at the Random Acts of Kindness Foundation. And I'm sure many of you have the same thought that I did originally, that there's an actual foundation that's dedicated to kindness. And the answer is yes, there is. So I've been there about 10 years, and we'll talk more about the foundation, I think, at some point. But I'm glad to be here, and I hope we can give you guys some good resources and tips tonight.
And to give you guys a little heads up about what we're going to kind of go over, Brooke's going to tell us some wonderful things to do with your community, with your home life, and with your school community. Did I get it right, Brooke?
Yep.
And how you can kind of promote that idea of kindness in all facets of your life and kind of get some return on that as well. And before we hopped on, we chatted about parents out there. We know how you need snackable things to just know what to do and then do them. No big lesson plan. So I think we should kind of start there, because snack size bites are always the way to go.
Yes. Well, and that is kind of how we function at Random Acts of Kindness. We know that kindness happens in moments, right? It doesn't take a lot of work. It doesn't take a lot of time. It doesn't certainly have to take any money. So everything we offer, by the way, is completely free of charge. It's at randomactsofkindness.org. What you'll see on there are some great ideas for your kids, all ages, right? So everything we have runs from toddler through high school, and then there's sort of adult level stuff. But, simple things that we've been putting together, certainly during COVID, has been things like coloring pages, right? You're indoors, you're looking for something to do, something quick, some fun coloring pages on there. We have a community challenge book. We call it a community challenge book, but it's a great thing for parents. You can download it, and it's an activity book that revolves around doing or receiving or witnessing acts of kindness. So every time you do something or see something, you kind of color in a box and you fill in the boxes, and hopefully at the end of it, you've got a full book of activities that you've completed. So all of these things are simple, easy. There's a book list. There are some ideas for icebreakers. Everything's as easy as it can be. This is Random Acts of Kindness Week, and you'll see when you hit the homepage that there's ideas for every day. Again, free and simple, and don't take a lot of time or effort.
And those of you that are tuning in, feel free to drop in a nice story of a random act of kindness that happened to you, or maybe that you've done for someone else. We love hearing stories here. And Brooke, what do you, as we talked a little bit before about being parents, what do you like to do with your daughter to promote random acts of kindness? I know that a lot of families where I live like to do the rocks. We have actually a group online that does them, and you hide them, and they're just great things to find, and they're fun. Yep. And my daughter likes to do that. So
yeah,
wondering what you like to do.
That's a great one. We have a couple things we do. One, she does something every year on her birthday, which is actually coming up, and this year she decided to do something that is, I believe it was yesterday's activity for Random Acts of Kindness Week, called blessing bags. And it's basically a large Ziploc bag filled with necessities, toiletries, all those kinds of things for homeless folks in our neighborhood. So it might have granola bar, toothbrush, soap, all their hygiene items, all of that kind of thing, socks, warm gloves. So this year she is doing 100 of those, and we've asked friends and neighbors to help us out. And it's fascinating. It's been less than 24 hours, and we've already got like a dentist who is going to donate 100 toothbrushes and mini toothpaste, right? So the more that you involve your community, the bigger this gets. And so that's one thing. It's kind of a big project. But the other thing she was doing during the summertime, there's a lot of kids in our neighborhood, a lot of little ones. And my daughter's almost 15. She loves little kids. She took, in fact, I have one here. Let me see if I can find it.
I love
it. She made these little fairy jars filled with glitter.
Oh, okay. That's awesome.
And she would decorate them with, she would color them or paint them or put a little flower on top. And she'd hide them around the neighborhood, and started a Facebook group for those that found them to just, she calls it, we live in a neighborhood called Beeler Park Fairies. And the kids would take pictures and they'd find them, and it became this real scavenger hunt all summer. We must have put probably 200 of those out over the summer, and it was awesome. So there's all kinds of fun things.
I love that. And I love that, you know, when you and I were talking, we are crafters. I love making cards for nursing homes. Mm-hmm. It's one of the things that I get probably as much joy as the people getting them, making the cards for them. Yeah. So I know that there's this feeling of like social emotional for teachers, learning lessons that can come out of giving and being kind. Is there any tips and tricks you have for teachers to teach students about how to be kind in the classroom?
Yeah, I think a lot of it certainly is outlined in the lesson plans, but I think that what happens is it comes from the modeling, right? From the teachers themselves, that if you're going to talk about kindness and make, you really have to show them that that's who you are and that's what matters to you. We have experienced several schools where there was a lot of turmoil going on, and what we found was the kids were not the issue. There was distrust amongst the staff and negativity. And so when you really shift that and look at how are you modeling this idea of respect and compassion and kindness, the lessons are easy, right? The lessons are sort of supplementary to who you are and how you behave with the kids. So I think, my idea is not my idea, but my tip is, right, just make sure that everything that you're doing is modeling what you want from the kids. And the biggest part of that, truly the biggest part of that, is your own self-care. You can't pour from an empty vessel. So if you are not taking care of yourself and being kind to yourself, it's really hard for kids to believe what you're telling them or how you're modeling the behavior. So worry about yourself first, and then everything will come from there.
I think that's great, especially because we did a study recently about how stressed out teachers are, and found that of all the things that they're being dealing with, their own personal stresses is the one thing that they're just not able to deal with. It's just the mental health has been rough. And of course, teachers are expected to do quite a bit, so we can completely understand that.
Exactly.
And I know that there are parents who, give to teachers all the time. So I know that, thank you guys out there for supporting each other, because it's a big deal. And I know that a lot of our students and a lot of our teachers are virtual right now. Do you have any tips on how they can do kindness or do random acts of kindness in the digital environment? Because it's maybe a little different than they're used to.
It is harder in the digital environment. And one thing I want to tag on what you said, one thing to do is ask for help, right? If you need it, ask for help. Parents especially they're happy to help if they know they can do something to help. So ask for that. In the digital environment, I think the interesting thing that we've seen is at the beginning of the pandemic, we saw that social emotional learning sort of took a dip. There was this like, oh my gosh, we have to make sure that everybody's learning the academics and we're not going to fall behind. And all of that was important. And so we saw this dip in like, well, we'll get back to social emotional learning. And what we saw, a lot of us saw, was that wasn't a great time to do that, right? There's a lot of mental health issues going on, compounded at that time, still are. And so we've seen this actual rise in returning to social emotional learning. So my thought is, spend the time on it. I know that everybody feels behind right now. I know that everybody feels like kids are probably not getting everything they should this year in terms of academics. But what they really need, and what you as teachers and as parents all need, is this well-being for yourself. If you can worry about that, spend a little extra time on social emotional learning, you're going to be okay. And some things that you can do with that, just check in, right? 5-10 minutes in the morning, really check in with the kids. Because there's a lot, as you know, Sam, we talked about, we both have teenagers. You ask a teenager how they're doing and it's, I'm fine.
I'm fine.
Right? If you get an answer at all.
If you're lucky.
Yeah. So I've had to spend more time with my daughter and really check in, like, how are you doing? And if I see her grades slipping, it's, what's going on? Or if I see that she's not communicating with her friends, really tune into the kids, and yourself, and check in with each other. I think that's my biggest tip. Check in with each other.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And I've noticed that there's like an uptick, and I don't know if you guys have noticed, teachers listening, there are mental health check-ins, even digital ones
Mhm.
that teachers are giving students, and they can just kind of check and let teachers kind of know how it's going. But I don't think there's anything wrong with teachers kind of doing like an internal check either.
Yeah.
I know I do sometimes. I'm like, I don't mind. I had a uncle who used to have it on the fridge, a little magnet, and you could say how you're feeling for the day, and it's good. It's good to
Yeah.
do a little self-assessment and see how everything's going.
Yeah.
Uh, and do you have any tips on how students and teachers outside of mental health can do random acts of kindness? I know an example I might have is kind of cool is St. Jude's every year does digital cards. And I thought, hey, what a great little way to kind of enrich someone's day, and you get to write a note. And I really liked that. It's simple, it's easy, but it also has a great purpose. Anything you can think of kind of in that vein that teachers and students can get together and do?
Yeah, that's actually a great idea. And now that we're back to, or now that we sort of understand better, COVID, that initially we talked about sending cards, physical cards, and then it was like, maybe don't do that. I think now we've realized that's safe to do. So that's something to ask, kids, parents, write a card, right?
Oh, yeah.
Write it, especially to some of these people that we know are, isolated. What is, possibly uh, a nursing home, or, probably not. I don't know that I'd send it to a hospital, but places where people are isolated. I think the other thing you can do is, in the classroom, online, create a plan for, kids to figure out, what are you good at, what do you like to do, and then how can you spread that in some way, in a kind way. So for instance, my daughter's really good at, baking, and she loves to bake. So we've talked about it, because I can't eat 1,000 cupcakes a week, which is what it feels like we have in my house all the time. Um, so it's been, okay, who do we know from our neighbors that live alone or are isolated? Or so we do a lot of care packages around our neighborhood of baked goods, and it's just been so lovely. A couple of our elderly neighbors, have come down and just knocked on the door and left a note saying thank you, and how much it meant to them to just have their day interrupted with somebody, much less an act of kindness. So I think, help the kids think about, what is it you like to do, and how can you turn that into an act of kindness? Because you might suggest to a kid, draw a card or bake, and they'll be like, I don't care about either of those things. So figure out what they do like to do. Do they like to paint? Paint rocks and leave them around the neighborhood. I think one of the most beautiful things we saw at the beginning of this was, we asked, parents to help their kids write a note of appreciation, even if it was just an email, to their teacher, to say,
Right.
I know you're struggling right now because you've had to switch everything up and learn a whole new way of teaching, and I appreciate you. Even though we're all frustrated with what might be going on, thank you for continuing to be my teacher. And teachers were like, I mean, just so touched by it. So something like that.
I used to have, and these are so great for those bad days that everyone always has. But I used to have a folder, an email folder of just great comments from other parents or students. And I know as a teacher that really does brighten a kid's day. For those parents that are listening, they love it. They will hold that dear for years. I still have my folder. Any parting things you would like everyone to know, and anything on the website that you think is particularly amazing for random acts of kindness?
Yeah, I think, well, while we're in Random Acts of Kindness Week, I say go to the homepage and check out all the good ideas on there. One of my favorites is, it's a gratitude jar or a kindness jar, and it's just literally just a ball jar. You fill out little notes. You could do it every day. You could do once a week, just saying what you're grateful for, and what matters to you. We did it last year, and we have a full jar. And then at the end of the year, you open it up and read them. And it's just a lovely thing to do. Something like that. I think the only other thing I want to let folks know, make sure you're aware of the science of kindness. And that is really simple. If you do an act of kindness or you receive an act of kindness, you have this physiological reaction of release of oxytocin and serotonin and dopamine, and you feel this rush and you want to do it again. So keep doing it. And I think that, the other part of that is fascinating enough. It's not just the person who did it or the person who received it. The person who witnessed it, you didn't even have to be a part of it. You just saw it happen, has the exact same physiological reaction. So tune into these opportunities that are around you and take part. Find a reason to be kind. They're everywhere. They're all the time, even if it's as simple as smiling at somebody.
That's actually great to hear from a mental health perspective, even for someone who might not be participating in that, but gets to witness that. What a great feeling for everybody involved. I didn't know that. That's great science right there.
Yeah.
That's a win-win situation.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, guys, if you have any questions, we do monitor the chat for 24 hours, so feel free to drop in. We'd love to hear your stories of random acts of kindness. What have you done this week, or what did you do yesterday? Anything. We love stories. So drop them in. We will definitely read them. And we hope you guys have a fantastic night, and we'll talk to you soon.